Welcome to another episode of Unabashed You. Today we've been talking lately about coaching and why does it seem like there's so many coaches out there and why you might actually want to get a coach. Yeah, so hard to so hard to say. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the difference between coaching and therapy because I think there are notions out there that they might be the same when there might be a little bit of kind of like that old Venn diagram we learned about in school where there's one side is coaching, one side is therapy, and there might be a little bit of crossover in between. Let's kind of see if we can't dive in and make some distinctions here. All right, let me pull up my notes here so that I can tell us all the differences. Okay, so let's start with this. You know something needs to change. You're stuck, overwhelmed, or simply wondering what's next. Everyone seems to have a therapist or a coach these days, but how do you know which one you actually need or want? Today, we're clearing up the confusion. And a lot of times we might need something, but we don't want it. So I think that that is a huge distinction to make. Sometimes we want something and we also need it. Anyway, I could do a whole thing just on that. But anyway, here we go. Back to the ideas around this. So both exist to help people, but they serve different purposes. One isn't better than the other. They're different tools for different reasons. You can think of it like this: therapy often helps you heal, coaching helps you build. Sometimes you need one, sometimes you need both. And I've shared on through this podcast platform and blog that I have had coaches in the past help me with particular things, and I have found those experiences very helpful. And I would agree with the building part of it, definitely. I've also been in therapy a few different times in my life, also felt that extraordinarily helpful in helping me heal and helping me kind of see some things that maybe some patterns or things that I maybe couldn't have come up with on my own. Secondly, therapy tends to focus on healing the past. A lot of times we go in there about, our parents, our whatever, these different things that happened usually yesterday or a long time ago. Okay. So a therapist might help you process trauma, might help you work through grief, treat your anxiety or depression. And I've been to a therapist for anxiety, very helpful. The therapist might help you understand unhealthy patterns. We were just mentioned the patterns before, improve your mental health, and questions that therapists often explores: what happened? Why do I react this way? How has my past shaped me? Boy, we can all relate to that, right? And healing is the goal here. So again, we're around healing. We're looking at the past. We're trying to figure out what we think about the past, the patterns we have developed because of the past. Okay. Coaching focuses on creating your future. A coach helps you gain clarity. I do like that word clarity because it means seeing something clearly, right? Obviously, that's what it means. But sometimes that's really what we need. And sometimes we need the help of someone else to help us see clearly. Coaching can also help you make decisions because sometimes we're not quite sure, should I do A? Should I do B? I don't know. So meanwhile, we don't do either one, and we don't necessarily get very far because of that, because we're stuck. We're absolutely stuck between A and B. I can work a whole thing around A or B, and yeah, we can talk about that. All right, so making decisions and then also discovering a purpose that you might be wondering about. I think particularly once we hit 50 and above, after the kids are raised, after maybe the career is either over or winding down, or you've been through a big relationship change. It's, what happens now? What is my purpose now? Also, coaching can help you set goals. There's all kinds of coaching and all different kinds of goal setting that you can do around the different programs that you can be a part of in a coaching program. So maybe setting goals, you need some help doing that. And yeah, it's very hard to be self-starters and to do things on our own. Sometimes we need just that little bit of structure to help us along the way. Coaching can also help you overcome limiting beliefs. Now, this is this thing that we've been hearing about for, I don't even know, several years or more. Limiting belief, limiting belief. I mean, what does that even mean? It means your thought process is kind of narrow and you're not allowing yourself to think bigger. So because of the thoughts that you have, like I don't know if I can do A, I don't know if I can do B. So you limit yourself. You limit yourself by not making a decision at all. So that's part of what that means. It's beliefs that keep you stuck and don't allow you to move forward and expand and be more. Coaching can also help you take consistent action because you've got maybe a little more of a structure, something you've put into place. There's even some coaching programs have an accountability piece that can be very helpful. Also, to take oh I, yeah, to take consistent action. We just talked about that, and to stay accountable. Again, that was part of what I was just mentioning. So here's some questions that coaches might ask. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? 50 plus, after the big thing, the big change, the big transition, you got a new, different role now. What's it going to be? What is it going to be? Where do you want to go? Let's help identify that, and then let's help make it happen. And I again, personal experience has helped tremendously for me in this area. And then what's stopping you? This could be a coaching question. What's stopping you? So common ones, fear, and then under the umbrella of fear, we have so many things: comparison, imposter syndrome, self-doubt. Gosh, it just the list goes on and on. And we've talked about fears a lot here on the show, and we'll continue to talk about that because they are one of the things that really stop us from being all we could be if we want to be. So that's the thing. Back to wanting to. And what's one step you can take this week? You know, sometimes things feel so big and you don't even know how to get there. So, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I know it's one of those ones you learn as a kid or whatever. It feels really big, but if you kind of break it down, and a coach can help you with this, breaking it down into micro steps, so small steps where it feels a lot more doable. Like, oh my gosh, I broke this big thing down into these smaller steps that I can achieve, and that will make all the difference. And then a coach can also help you move in that goal. Like, hey, how did it go this week with that thing? Oh, that's fantastic. So what are you thinking moving forward? I mean, it's very now focused, I would say. A therapist asks, so what happened? What happened? So again, we're looking, and there is a place for this. Please be clear that there's a place for both these things, and that's what we're talking about. So the coach asks, what happens next? What happens next? Especially over 50, we aren't broken. We're just asking, well, who am I now? Because, the kids are grown, I'm retired, I'm gone through menopause, or I'm going through it. My marriage has changed, or I'm no longer in that relationship. And what does God want for this next season? What does He want for me in this huge change? Because when we're little kids, especially if you're girls, you grow up thinking about being a mom and having kids. You don't really think about that next chapter after that. You don't really fantasize so much about that, but that doesn't mean you're done because you're not. What do you want now? Who do you want to be now? All right, so where are we here on my notes? I got to actually put my glasses on. Okay. Uh, okay, so that's what we were talking about. That's where coaching can be really powerful when you're asking those questions and then you're figuring out who you are now. And I sometimes will say after the big thing, the kids, the menopause, the job, the whatever it is, lots of big things. All right, but coaches, let's be clear, they do not diagnose mental illness. They do not diagnose mental illness. A qualified coach does not diagnose a condition, prescribe a medication, treat trauma, or nor does a coach replace licensed mental health care. If a client needs therapy, an ethical coach will refer them to a licensed mental health professional or will say, hey, ask around your family and friends, find somebody that you think will be a good fit. And I will never forget the time I very first went to a therapist. I was 21 and oh my gosh, I was struggling so much with anxiety. It was just really becoming very debilitating. And I remember my mom asked somebody, a friend of hers, about therapy and a therapist. And so she had me call, which was absolutely spot on. So I called this therapist and he said, well, finding a therapist will be a lot like trying on a pair of shoes. The first one might not necessarily be the right fit, but you keep trying them on until you find a good fit. And can I tell you that I imagine this gentleman, this as this wise man who surely had gray hair and a beard, a gray beard, and he had a cardigan and he had a pipe and he was smoking it. But well, that just the opposite was true. He was a young, handsome man, and I was very surprised that I had pictured him completely differently. Anyway, that's a whole completely different story. So, what else? So, if a client needs a therapist, then you would recommend one. And sometimes therapists will refer their clients to coaches once they're ready to focus on the future goals and personal growth. So, when would there be a time that you might want both a coach and a therapist? Yeah, it can be healing while growing, processing grief while building a new life, managing anxiety while pursuing purpose. So you feel that first part, the healing is the therapist, the growing is the coach, processing grief therapist, building a new life coach, managing anxiety therapist, pursuing purpose coach. Now that doesn't mean there isn't a coach out there that doesn't work with anxiety. No doubt there are coaches who work with anxiety. Okay. Many successful women have a therapist and a coach because they serve different roles. And one of the women that I admire and really look up to is Brene Brown, and you may have heard of her. She's a social worker and has a PhD in social work and has done a tremendous amount of research and written books. And there is so much value and authenticity and oh gosh, just wisdom and depth in her research and the way she shows up in her own life. She has a therapist and a coach. Okay. So there are a lot of people out there, successful people out there who continue to partake in these different areas because they have this need, this desire to keep growing. And really, that's sort of the bottom line. Okay, but what does the word say about this? God often heals us. He also calls us forward. Moses needed direction. Esther needed courage. Deborah offered wise leadership. Paul mentored Timothy. So, wise counsel, accountability, encouragement, and discipleship all have a place in a believer's life. Give that some thought. Now, so here are some questions to ask yourself. Am I trying to heal something painful? Am I emotionally healthy but feeling stuck? Do I need understanding or action? Do I need someone to process my past or help create my future? Could I benefit from both? So these are some good questions to ask yourself to help you decide and land on whether you would want a therapist, a coach, or both. All right. Um, what do we got next here? Let's see. Okay, next up, we've got some myths. Let's talk about some myths. Here's a myth. Therapy is only for people with serious problems. Okay, I can attest to that. I've been in therapy twice, a therapist two different times. Fabulous, great experience. Definitely, I would not characterize what I was going through as serious problems, but I was taking my challenges seriously, and maybe that's the difference. Okay, I got an itch in my eye. Okay, myth. Well, that was the myth that therapy is only for people with serious problems. Therapy benefits many people facing stress, grief, life transitions, or emotional challenges. Okay, truth. A myth. Coaching is just giving advice. The truth. Good coaches ask thoughtful questions, help clients clarify what matters, and support accountability rather than telling people what to do. Yep. A coach might offer a suggestion, but that's something that you have to try on to decide if it feels right and good for you. The truth is, seeking help isn't a lack of faith. Many Christians view counseling, medical care, wise community, and prayer as complementary forms of support. Yes, agreed. If you're carrying wounds that need healing, don't hesitate to seek therapy. I got to get my glasses back on. I can't read my notes. If you're healthy but stuck, uncertain about your next chapter, wondering what God has for you after 50, after the big thing, coaching may be exactly the support you need. The important thing isn't choosing the right label, it's taking the next faithful step instead of staying stuck. If today's conversation resonated with you because you're asking, what's next for me? I'd love to help. My coaching is designed specifically for women of faith over 50 who know they're not done yet. And by the way, we're eventually going to have something for the guys for sure. Together, we'll uncover what's holding you back, gain clarity about where God may be leading you, and create a practical, not a perfect one, a practical plan for moving forward with confidence. Because after the big thing, after the kids, the retirement, the menopause, the relationship change, after that, you've always known there's still you. And your next chapter matters. Yes, this is the work I get to do because I think it is so important to continue living this life in a way that has purpose and passion and growth and learning and understanding and connection. Oh, I could go on and on. Instead, I will say thank you for tuning in, and I hope this brought you some clarity about whether you want a coach, therapist, or both. See you next time.